The following featured presentation is part of the SKYwalking Network.
This is what you can look forward to on episode 395 of SKYwalking Through Neverland.
I was hired then, before I left, to do like 5 portraits of Carrie Fisher in the new hairstyles.
Wow.
Podcasting exclusive.
And then I think they were wanting me to do them to present them to George Lucas.
It looks like Princess Leia combined with Nova from Planet of the Apes.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
So I just thought that, well, I'm going to kind of do my ideas of the slave girl outfit and just see if he is impressed.
Especially now at this time when, we really like to uplift women, and I mean, I think it's very important.
I regret the fact that we'll never get Carrie Fisher's impression of these designs, because I'd love to know what she would think of these.
Are you ready?
Off to Neverland!
Here we go!
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
When I first made Star Wars, everybody in Hollywood said, well, this is a movie Disney should have made.
You're more than just fans. You're family.
Best day ever!
Secrets love.
It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Hey.
When you use a bird to write with, it's called tweeting.
When we visit the world of Disney, we never grow old. It's a Peter Pan, Never Land that keeps us young in heart.
This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are skywalking through Neverland. I have a good feeling about this.
Hey, Skywalkers! Just when you thought you had heard every behind-the-scenes stories on Star Wars, along comes an undiscovered gem, which is what we have coming up today. But for right now, we want to welcome you back to SKYwalking Through Neverland. I am Richard Woloski, but now everyone please say hello to my sweetie wife Sarah, who last week I forgot to play this little Halloween gem.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Happy, happy
I forgot that was our last episode until Halloween.
Right.
We were so focused on Tales of the Jedi.
I know. Well, that was so exciting. I mean, arguably as exciting as Halloween was Tales of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Especially the Sith Lord episode.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an episode you can watch on Halloween.
Very
right?
much so. Hey, and guess what?
What?
363 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween.
No!
363
Stop
more
it!
days till Halloween.
Now you got me dancing to this.
Yay, yay, sweetie.
No, stop it. All right. Oh, my goodness.
Now I'm done.
Now you're done?
I had to
Okay.
do that.
Okay. Well, Skywalkers, we are your enthusiastic podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars, Disney, and Marvel fandom. So imagine a big Wookiee hug from us to you and a little sprinkling of pixie dust for our family of Skywalkers. Now, coming up in this episode, we will be speaking with Marilee Heyer. She made news a little while back as she told her story of how her contributions to Princess Leia and Return of the Jedi had not been properly credited. So Marilee is now making her podcast debut and sharing more of her stories of working on Jedi and how her artwork is starting to resurface on merchandise right now.
We are so excited. Do you know what else we are so excited about?
What?
That this episode is being sponsored by Small World Vacations, and they are a diamond-level Disney vacation planner travel agency and can help you book a trip to a Disney park around the world or on the Galactic Star Cruiser. And best of all, their service is free of charge. So head over to smallworldvacations.com for a no-obligation price quote and tell them SKYwalking Through Neverland sent you. And we'll be using their services next week.
Yeah, next week, 2 weeks, a week and a half, right?
Yeah.
Very excited, you guys, very excited. And for those of you who are on the East Coast, make sure to meet us November 17th at
Hollywood Studios.
Thank you.
Yes.
But to East.
We know it's a Thursday, so it might be hard to get a meetup.
But we'll do it in the evening, though. We definitely want to see anyone who's there. So we will be in Batu pretty much that whole evening of Life Day, celebrating Life Day. It's going to be amazing.
And why they're not already planning something there themselves beyond me.
Well, I believe they are planning a lightsaber meetup. So they'll at least have that. Yeah.
Okay,
so
but right.
We'll find out. And there is a ton of Life Day merchandise.
Yes.
So
all right.
Shop
all right.
Disney was planning for this.
Okay, you're back in my good graces, Disney.
Yes.
Don't let it happen again. Did you see those red Snuggies? Oh, Meredith.
Yes.
Thank you, Meredith Duckworth, for posting this in our group. So much Star Wars Holiday Special merchandise.
Yeah, there's a tumbler, Starbucks tumbler.
There's a shirt with Lumpy on it. There's a shirt with Mala, Itchy, and Lumpy.
Yeah.
So they're not just focusing on Life Day. They're focusing on the Star Wars Holiday Special because you have all the characters now.
Yeah.
So excited. What else do they have? They have some Christmas tree ornaments.
They have a Chewbacca plush that's 20 inches tall, which, I mean, that's more substantial. The previous one, I think, was only, 12 inches?
Yeah.
The little
12
one?
to 14 inches,
you got it right here, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a 12-inch, yeah.
Oh, we better bring an extra suitcase.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, my goodness.
So we are excited. So once again, Skywalkers, if you're in the Florida area or Georgia or Tennessee or Los Angeles or Texas, anywhere, come meet us at Disney's Hollywood Studios on November 17th, Life Day. Now, we are recording this from Long Beach, California on November the 2nd, 2022.
All right. So, Richard, what happened today in Star Wars history?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. Oh, I put my book away. We just got our first book.
Go get it.
We just got our first copy. Okay, hold on one second. You make some conversation.
Okay. So, everyone, for Halloween, what did you guys dress as? Let me know. And Kevin is speaking in riddles here. Oh, gosh. I don't know what that means, Kevin. If you're on Facebook, let us know.
So look, everyone. This is it. We just got it like yesterday.
Yep.
It's an official copy of Today in Star Wars History Part 2.
Woo!
Oh, so excited. So, you were asking me what happened today in Star Wars history.
I was.
Well, let's go back 37 years.
Ooh.
Okay, on this date in 1985, this is when the episode Sunstar vs. Shadowstone from the Ewok animated series was aired, as well as Kobe and the Star Hunters, an episode from Droids. This is when they would mash up both series together for the Ewoks and Droids Adventure Hour.
Nice.
And guess where I was on this day 37 years ago?
You were probably cutting school and watching this. Or would
This
they come
was
out
a
on
Saturday.
Saturdays?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
okay.
No school, so I was watching some Ewoks and some Droids.
Okay.
All right. Also, we have to wish a happy 30th birthday to Naomi Ackie. She plays Janna in The Rise of Skywalker. Now, also, 21 years ago, Monsters, Inc. was released.
Oh.
Wait a minute, that's not Star Wars.
That's not.
But what preceded Monsters, Inc.? The next Attack of the Clones trailer.
Of course.
This one was titled Breathing, and I love this. This is one of my favorite. I love trailers. This is one of my favorite trailers of all time because it opened up with that rhythmic beating and Darth Vader's breath, and the shots would fade in, fade out. Oh, I love this so much.
I remember this trailer clearly.
Oh, so do I. And then some pinhead in front of me when I went to go see it that morning shouted something very derogatory, so I kicked the back of his seat. Yeah, a fight almost broke out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh, I was so angry. But
Yikes.
Yeah. He just turned around and mumbled something. Yeah. You say that again, and I know where you're sitting for the next 2 hours.
Wow.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's bring it back to the happy times of Star Wars and today in Star Wars history. So what kind of updates do we have this week, Sarah?
Okay. Well, Part 2, Today in Star Wars history, is available for pre-sale. So that's not an update. That's been available for the past 2 weeks. But we do have to let you know that the update is if you are an international audience, international friends like Europe, Canada, anywhere in the world, you can't order from us directly, but you can now order from Amazon, both the paperback and the hardcover copy internationally. So those are available now. If you do want an autographed book plate, just message us, let us know, and we can mail that out to you guys. All right, but back to anyone who is in domestic United States, part 2 is available for pre-sale from our website, skywalkingthroughneverland.com/book. And if you're purchasing both part 1 and 2 together, there is a holiday special discount. Just read through the whole listing to find that code. If you have already purchased part 1, you also get a special discount in your email. So if you haven't checked your email, make sure to do that. If you want that code, message us. And if you're a part of the Skywalking Force, you get an even deeper discount. And just so you know, the list price for these, the paperback is $25. It is still in color, and it's got a paper cover, and it's $50 for the hardcover. The hardcover features obviously a hardcover and the best paper that Amazon can buy.
This is made out of Christmas trees.
It is.
Oh, look at this.
It's beautiful, and the pictures look amazing on this hardcover. Yeah.
This is very heavy cardstock. What kind of tree? I'm going to say
it's
they
not
made
cardstock. It is beautiful. It's beautiful. So once again, head to skywalkingthroughneverland.com/book, or if you're an international friend, make sure to check amazon.com and just search Today in Star Wars History, Richard Woloski. That will pop up.
Wow. You know what? Since paper is made from trees, what if we got all the discarded Christmas trees after Christmas and use them to make the paper?
Maybe it'll be a bit cheaper.
Yes. It's like recycled Christmas trees.
That sounds good.
I want a book made out of recycled Christmas trees.
Yes.
That's a good idea for the next book.
Well, we've got quite some events coming up. Not only will we be in Batuu East for Life Day on November 17th, what else is happening, Richard?
Well, if you want to come and pick up your copy of Today in Star Wars History Part 1 or Part 2, come see us at the Lost Con Convention, which is held right here in Los Angeles at the LAX Marriott. This will be held on November 25th through November 27th. It's a smaller convention, but still lots of fun. And they got some parties there. They got some really, really heavy-duty parties. Now, on the 26th of November, we will be hosting a panel called The Classic Days of Star Wars Rumors. Do you recall back in the days right before a Star Wars film would come out, these little cheapo magazines, or even magazines like Starlog would print up all these rumors that they've been collecting. And from our inside source at Lucasfilm, we heard that Princess Leia is actually going to marry so-and-so.
Wow.
Or Mick Jagger is going to score The Empire Strikes Back. I went through all my countless magazines and just been pulling all these fun rumors. This is going to be so much fun. It'll be held once again on November 26th at 1 p.m. And I'll be joined by Craig Miller, Kevin Toft will be there, and Max Cervantes of the Max EFX Podcast. It is going to be a great time.
I can't wait for that because I didn't see any of these rumors growing up. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Well, I used to believe every one of them because they were printed, so they had to be true.
All right. Silly. I know. Well, now it's time to talk with Marilee Heyer and hear about her experiences working on Return of the Jedi.
In 1982, Marilee Heyer was hired to pretty things up on the upcoming Star Wars sequel, Revenge of the Jedi.
After an article in sfgate.com by Andrew Pridgen shed light on Marilee's amazing contribution, we knew we had to have her on Skywalking Through Neverland. So now we are so excited to have her here now.
Hey, Marilee!
Thank you. It's an honor.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And we are so excited to hear all your stories because aside from Andrew's article in SFGate, I don't think these stories have ever been told, have they?
No. just with friends.
Wow.
Podcasting exclusive. Now, you started your career in the late 1960s working on layouts and background designs for Saturday morning cartoons. Which cartoons did you work on?
My first job out of Art Center, College of Design, my first job was for Format Productions, working on The Lone Ranger.
Nice.
Oh.
A big part of my childhood.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And what kind of work did you do?
I was doing layouts or scene. I think it might have been called scene planner, where I was, taking the storyboards that had already been done, and then doing finished drawings of the backgrounds, and then doing finished drawings of the characters like the Lone Ranger and Tonto, how they fit with the background, like a layout in a way. And then after they were okay, they would go to the figures, then would go to the animators to move, to be given action, and then the backgrounds would go to the background department to be painted. At that one point where and I was working on a light box so that I could see through and see how the characters moved against the background. It was about 66, I think, that I was there. And Disney I think they were working on their theme parks, but they hadn't really there was a lag. They weren't really doing really important movies.
Right.
And a lot of the animators had been let go. So a lot of the animators went into doing animation for the Saturday morning cartoons. So I really got to work with some of the old vintage animators.
Wow.
That had worked on Cinderella. And I think the director I worked with was Bill Lightla, and he had worked on Fantasia.
Oh.
And I knew nothing really about animation. They had to teach me.
Well, if you're going to learn from the best.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's awesome. And you also worked on the Batman Superman Hour and Aquaman.
Aquaman, yeah. Aquaman. Then I started, I don't think The Lone Ranger was renewed. After every 13 episodes you were laid off, and you had to wait to find out if the show had been renewed. So then I think after that, I went on to a company called Filmation. And they were doing, I think, Aquaman, and for them I did Aquaman, the Hardy Boys, and ended up, I think, working on the Archies.
Oh,
wow! Iconic.
You drew my childhood.
And of course, then I remember there was a great big party when "Sugar Sugar" was like one of the hit songs from the Archies. Sugar. They had a big party to celebrate. It was fun.
Wow.
Cool.
For these animated shows, did you do the same work, or did you move around positions?
No, it was the same thing. I was doing scene planner for all of them.
Gotcha. Hey, I didn't know Hardy Boys, there was an animated show until I did some research on you. It's like,
yeah.
I did not know this. I thought it was always just a live action show with Sean Cassidy and Parker Stevenson.
Yeah. And Journey to the Center of the Earth. I mentioned that too, because that was a fun one to work on. They did an animated Saturday show for that too.
Oh, nice.
And then what led you to working on Revenge of the Jedi, or as we know now, Return of the Jedi?
I always wanted to live in the Bay Area. And so I decided I think during a layoff period, I switched my unemployment up to San Francisco and just took off and to live and work in San Francisco, but really not knowing what I was going to do because I knew there wasn't any animation studios up there. So the hot thing that was happening for artists then was just all the department stores were needing fashion illustrators. So I started doing fashion illustration for the different department stores and Liberty House. And during that time, I think, I don't know, the late 70s, when the Star Wars movies came out, I just loved them. And I knew that ILM was in San Francisco or San Rafael, and I was living, I think, in the Bay Area at that time. So I just started putting it out to everybody that I knew that I wanted to work for George Lucas. And I started working on a series of portfolio drawings of science fiction creatures because I knew if I was lucky enough to get an interview out there, I would have to have a portfolio. And in the interim too, I was doing some advertising work at an advertising agency, and I was doing storyboards for TV commercials.
So it sounds like you were really preparing for your moment, and you were initially brought in to storyboard the first act of Return of the Jedi, primarily the Jabba the Hutt scenes.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you work off of Joe Johnston's stuff, or did he work off of your stuff?
Yeah, I was actually working with Nilo Rodis Jamera, and I had an interview. I ended up, when I was putting my message out there that I wanted to work, someone knew Nilo, and through knowing somebody, I was able to get an interview with him. And at that time, Nilo and Joe Johnston were doing storyboards. Joe Johnston was doing the Ewok sequence, and Nilo was working on the barge sequence and the sand monster. But Nilo was also had an opportunity to do costume design. So he was working with Aggie Rogers, I think, doing costume design, and he wanted to keep his hand in doing storyboards. He was trying to do both. He was wanting to do storyboards and costume design. So Nilo hired me to come on and do storyboards to help him. So I was working with Nilo and Nilo's directions on the storyboard sequence. And he spent most of his time in the costume department, where I was working next to Joe Johnston, but he was doing his part of the movie, and then I was doing a separate section. If I was working under anybody's direction at the time, it was Nilo Rodis Jamera.
Yeah, it's odd that they would have Nilo split his time in between storyboarding and costumes, because those are two pretty monumental tasks.
Yes, I think that's why. Well, when Nilo saw that I could draw, and I'd had experience doing commercial or doing storyboards for TV commercials, but I think that's kind of why I was only there for the 3-week period, was because I think the powers that be maybe decided that they wanted Nilo to just do costuming. So by the time I left, they had hired another artist from LA to come in that was a more professional movie storyboard artist, and I can't remember his name, but they hired him to come in and take over during storyboards, and took the storyboard task away from Nilo. So that's kind of the way it worked.
Okay, so in that 3-week period, they had you bouncing back and forth from storyboarding to prettying things up in the costumes?
Costume design?
Yeah, this was kind of and I don't know how to, and maybe it was my communication with Andrew, but my prettying things up was, I sort of at the end of my storyboard section, there was an artist that was doing her hair designs, which was Paul LeBlanc, had been hired to design the new hairstyles for Princess Leia. But he was a great hair designer, but his drawing technique had lacked finesse, maybe I should say.
The feminine quality.
Yeah, so I was hired then, before I left, to do like 5 portraits of Carrie Fisher in the new hairstyles, and we're working with Paul LeBlanc he was okaying what I was doing, and so it was those drawings that have ended on taking sort of a life of their own and being used in different products. But I never, and this, I don't know what to say this, but I never actually had anything to do with the slave costume. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I get it now. So you prettied up Paul LeBlanc's hair designs on Princess Leia.
Yeah. When I came in, he had already done a series of drawings of the hairstyles, but so the style and the design of the hairstyles was already, he had done that, but he wasn't able to draw Carrie Fisher looking very pretty, I guess. So they just wanted me to come in, take care Paul LeBlanc's hairstyles, and but like you say, pretty them up and make them into attractive drawings to be presented to George Lucas.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Yeah, Leia had so many different great hairstyles, especially her Endor Scout look with the 2 braids over her head.
Well, that was all Paul LeBlanc, his hair designs. And then he did the one where her hair, for the end scene where she's in the village, the Ewok village, they had the long braids on either side and the crimped long hair.
Mhm.
But so I did the portraits of the 5 different her and the 5 different hairstyles. But those hairstyles were all Paul LeBlanc's designs.
Actually, right now I'm wearing the Slave Leia hair design.
Oh yeah.
Because I thought, it's so beautiful, and I've worn the Slave Leia costume before at conventions.
Oh, wow.
So, but I always felt so beautiful. So the hair design itself, instead of, like a lot of movies or TV will show women, if they're fighting, they'll still have their hair down and it's like all over your face. It's like, how can you fight?
Yeah.
So it's very practical design because the hair is back, it's up in that braid. So very, very nice.
Yeah, if Sarah walks to the kitchen, her hair's all over her face. So just in fighting, you gotta have pull your hair back. And right now we're showing you some of the sketches you had drawn that made it into the art of Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's another one, which is a bit of a
more Alderanian.
Right.
It's like almost like Princess Leia's hairdo from Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back combined into one.
Right.
Yeah.
So this top braid. Did they show you pictures, or you knew of Princess Leia, so you knew what she looked like? Were these some of the things that you wanted to do, or did they say, let's take what we had before and combine them? Or this is you playing around, right?
They gave me 8x10 glossies of Carrie Fisher, and then I had the sketches that Paul LeBlanc had done of the different hairstyles. So I did his hairstyle designs and put them and just drew portraits of her with his designs, and then he would have to okay my drawings so that I'd gotten the hairstyles right.
Okay, got it.
And then I think they were wanting me to do them to present them to George Lucas. No, so but I don't know at that point if they were trying to sell these hairstyles on George Lucas, or if George Lucas had directed them to do new hairstyles for her. I really don't know.
All right, so your task was doing Leia's hair, not so much her costumes. Even that's pretty monumental right there, because Leia is known for her hairstyles.
Oh yeah, it's a big part.
Yeah, part of maybe the mix-up, because I know when Andrew was taking some photographs, I did have 2 or 3 drawings that I did do of the slave girl outfit, but those were some that I wasn't really directed to do by anybody. I think it was like maybe during my lunch hour, and I was waiting for Nilo to come in and maybe give me some directions on how to proceed with the storyboards. And I knew that Nilo was working on the slave girl outfit. So I just thought that, well, I'm going to kind of do my ideas of the slave girl outfit and just see if he is impressed. But I don't remember that he was, or that he used them in any way.
Okay. Well, what were some of your ideas? I'm so curious.
Well, some of those are, I think I had her in more of a just like leather, sort of torn.
Yes. Okay.
Looking more slavish. Yeah, you can see some of the drawings looking over my shoulder in the article.
Yes, the SF Gate article. We see some of those right now.
Yeah, it looks like Princess Leia combined with Nova from Planet of the Apes.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And then I had a more fancy, like a breastplate where the chain is. I did like an Art Nouveau face or something on that. And I think it showed too with more my fashion design skills.
Right.
And also with the portraits of her, I think I've always in my career kind of been able to draw pretty women. So I think they liked the fact that I really made her, I mean, she was a pretty woman anyway. I was able to take advantage of her own beauty, and I think maybe I just elongated her neck or something. I stretched it out like they did with fashion drawings in those days.
Were these ever a consideration with Nilo? Did he say, hey, I can take these somewhere? Or did he say, we already have an idea of what we want to do?
I don't even remember if he commented on him or if he just said, or something.
I regret the fact that we'll never get Carrie Fisher's impression of these designs, because I'd love to know what she would think of these.
But I'm sure they had those portraits up in the makeup and hair room while they were getting Carrie Fisher ready. So.
Oh, likely did, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what surprised me, I think, is in fact recently, was how, when I actually was doing some research, how those designs were cropping up in a lot of, like, they were trading cards of my artwork with hair designs, how they came in, how they were in different books. And then recently on the cover of the Marvel comic.
Oh yeah, we have that issue. It's so great to see your work live on.
Yeah. Now, did you ever get a chance to meet George Lucas while you worked on Return of the Jedi, or director Richard Marquand?
Yeah, I was in a couple of meetings, maybe 3, but I was in the meeting when I met George Lucas, was when he was going over the storyboards. Like when we would finish our storyboards, they would be all up on the wall, and then George Lucas would come in, and with Richard Marquand, and George would go over the sequence of, how he liked that, how he liked the progression of the action. And I remember with the barge sequence, because I think that's when he was looking at my storyboards or the drawings that I had done, and he was very impatient that he wanted the action to move faster. It seemed like it was slow when they were getting off the barge, or when the fight started. So I remember he came in and he was had a black marker. He was just Xing out storyboards that he thought the action was too slow. He would just, and then I was telling Andrew that I think that's when he sort of came up with the idea of speeding things up. Then he said something about, like, couldn't Luke, like, do a flip or something off the diving board, so it was all as in my mind. I don't know how accurate my memory is, but it was that sort of wanted something dramatic to happen to speed it up, and so that's when he was like Xing out a lot of scenes that I had drawn that he felt were just, the action was too slow.
Did you tell George, hey, that comes in the editing department. That's not my department. I'll just draw it and they can edit the way they want.
And at that time, too, I remember it was funny that Richard Marquand wasn't really saying a lot, but I think the dynamic between the two men was interesting, because George Lucas was obviously in charge. Because Richard Marquand would say something like, but George, and that's all I remember him actually saying while George was Xing.
And George is saying, hey, you know what? This is my money. I'll X where I want to X.
Well, so later on when you saw Return of the Jedi, did you see the sail barge scene, you see these scenes that you have storyboarded and worked on. Did anything stand out to you?
I guess I was just excited to have been there and to work on it. Was just kind of an amazing thing, really. Hard for me to believe even at the time.
Now, going back to your storyboards, did you have a shot list to draw from? Were you taking direction from Richard Marquand or Nilo Rodis Jamero?
I'm assuming that Nilo maybe had something, and I can't remember whether he had done really rough sketches that I was working off of, or if he was describing the scene to me. But I was kind of working under Nilo's direction. So Nilo sort of knew the sequence of what the storyboard sequence, where I think I was just doing, assisting him in working on them.
Okay, I got you now. I got you. Now, you were saying that a lot of your designs have been popping up, such as the Marvel comic, the Age of Princess Leia #1. Yeah. Did you think, hey, maybe I can go to some convention and start signing some of these?
No, I didn't think about conventions. Well, I didn't. I don't know if I'm really supposed to talk about some of the legal things that are happening. But at one point, early on when I first saw my artwork for Return of the Jedi, and they had given Paul LeBlanc credit for the hairstyles and the illustrations. At that point, I did hire a lawyer, and this was back in '83, I think, when Return of the Jedi first came out. I hired a lawyer, and they contacted Lucasfilm, and Lucasfilm was great. They were very apologetic and promised from then on to go back and to fix the credits so that it would say hair design by Paul LeBlanc, illustration by Marilee Heyer, which they did do when the book was reprinted, but there was like a 15-year lag between the first printing and the second printing. But and then my artwork was in this exhibit at the Smithsonian of the hairstyle, one of the hairstyles, and they gave me, it said hair design by Paul LeBlanc, illustration by Marilee Heyer. But then, my life went on. I was doing all these other things, and I did some children's books, but it wasn't recently. I think some friends got me a smartphone, and I was just playing around with the phone and sort of Googling how I had the Princess Leia portraits, and I started coming up with seeing that the hairstyle is still being used in books, and then I saw the Marvel comic book cover, and I saw that during that interim, my name had been dropped off the credit, and it had been said hairstyle and artwork by Paul LeBlanc. So I thought, after all these years, I still needed to go back and get things made right.
Yeah, I've worked on a ton of movies where my name's never in the credits. It's always the head of the department that gets the credit.
Yeah.
So maybe I should call your lawyer. But you know what? You should actually think about getting some of these comics, doing the convention circuits, because fans will go crazy over you and your hair designs.
Especially now at this time when, we really like to uplift women, and I mean, I think it's very important.
Yeah,
especially at these Comic-Cons, the celebrations, where you see groups of slave Leias.
Yes, I've seen them on the internet. Yes.
Yeah, you set up a table right next to that booth. Oh my goodness, you'll have a line as far as the eye can see. Now there was a Friends episode where Ross had a fantasy of Rachel in the slave girl outfit.
Oh,
Did you see this? But however, she had the episode 4 hair buns.
Yeah, she didn't have the correct
and not
hairstyle.
the correct hair. Now, a million fanboys cried out when they saw that scene in Friends. Like, no, that's not the right hairstyle. If you're going to do it right.
I don't think they were thinking about her hair.
But Ross, you would think that Ross would say, you know what, I'm loving it, thank you, but the hair's not right. Come back and call Marilee, and then we'll try again.
That's a funny episode.
Yeah. And you were asked to stay at Lucasfilm after the 3 weeks. How come you left?
Well, I was pondering that because I was more friends at that time with Joe Johnston because we were working kind of in the same room together. And so I sort of went to him to find out what I ought to do. And there were a couple of other things happening. Also, I had done the illustrations, the science fiction illustrations as a portfolio piece. And the interim period between when I did those portfolio piece drawings and when I actually started working at Lucasfilm, a friend of mine introduced me to his literary agent in New York, and they started thinking that my illustrations would maybe make a good book. So by that time, she was actively trying to pursue getting me a book contract in New York. So that was also happening about the time that I was asked to stay at Lucasfilm. But I remember I was thinking, this could be a really wonderful gig if there's like 6 more movies, or I thought I could be working for the rest of my life. So I went to Joe Johnson and asked him what I ought to do. I said, well, they're going to be making all these movies. It would really be steady work for a long, long time and exciting work too. But he said, Joe's going to be taking, or George is going to be taking time off after this Revenge or Return of the Jedi, he said, and nobody really knows when they're going to start making another movie again. So he said it could be like 3 years, 6 years, or however long it ended up, being 15 or 18 years. So yeah. I thought I didn't know exactly what I would be staying on doing, since they had hired this storyboard artist from LA. I knew I'd be doing some sort of artwork, but I didn't know exactly what. And now I was thinking, well, if they're not going to do another movie, and I had this potential book deal, and also I was working at iMagnon. iMagnon had given me the time off, so they were kind of waiting. They had work for me when I left Lucasfilm, because I was doing fashion drawings for the newspaper for iMagnon. So that's when I just made the decision not to stay on, because I just didn't know what I was going to be doing or how long the work would last.
Yeah, because you're all independent contractors, so
yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, very practical decision. And we'd love to hear about your children's books. You came out with The Weaving of a Dream in 1989. And Publishers Weekly called this a breathtaking debut. So can you tell us what happened with your book career?
Well, it was, people really liked the illustrations. And I ended up, the second book I published was called The Forbidden Door. And that was a science fiction children's story utilizing my portfolio pieces that I took at Lucasfilm. But the publishers at that time, they wanted me to do a fairy tale that was more kind of in public domain. And so the same friend of mine, and it was Hap Kleban, who was the cat artist. I don't know if you remember back then, all the kitty, the folk singing cartoon kitty. Yeah, also said something like, I love those little mousies to bite their little heads off and eat their little tails or something like that. There was, he had these cartoon black and white sketches of cats that were everywhere. And he had a New York agent. But anyway, getting sidetracked here. He discovered he and his wife discovered this Chinese folktale, weaving the Chong brocade, I think. And they thought it would be a good story for me to illustrate. So that ended up being the first children's book that Viking liked the story and liked the illustrations. And then I said, well, I do want to do a story based on my Lucasfilm drawings, portfolio drawings. And so that was the second book that came out, called The Forbidden Door. It didn't do so well in the public. They didn't stress that those were that I had anything to do with Lucasfilm when that book came out. And I think the children liked the story, but the parents felt that the illustrations were too scary.
Oh.
It never took off like I had hoped. And then I did 3 other illustrated fairy tales in public domain after that, 3 other books.
Well, now that animation and cartoons are becoming so adult oriented, maybe it's a good time to reboot them.
I was actually thinking about that this morning.
Now, you did come back to Lucasfilm and you designed that iconic Revenge of the Jedi crew patch. Were you brought back specifically for that patch, or did you do other work at that time as well?
I can't remember exactly whether it was a different department. It was their advertising and product department in a different building. I can't remember exactly, that they called me and had me do the patch, design the patch and do that. And then I was talking to Andrew, because I did do a lunchbox illustration, one of the lunch boxes, and it was for the English market. And it was Darth Vader on Hoth, which shows Darth Vader with his cape sort of flowing, and there's a couple of stormtroopers behind him.
Oh, and Richard loves those.
Was this ever produced? this lunchbox?
Yes, it was. Andrew just Googled it on his phone, but it was for England. It was for the English market, but it's red plastic, and then has my illustration on the
Oh,
front.
I know what you're talking about. Okay, yeah, because there's how many different illustrations are there of Darth Vader on Hoth? So I didn't know that was an English-based lunchbox.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's cool.
wow. Did you work on any other kind of marketing designs?
No, I don't know why they didn't call me back after that.
Now, you say in the article that your primary motivation for taking the job at Lucasfilm was so you could possibly run into Harrison Ford. And I understand that.
I don't think I ever had the opportunity. I just loved the movies. I loved them. And I did think Harrison Ford was pretty cool.
He's very cute. I understand.
Yes, I did get to meet George Lucas. And like I say, we did go to one meeting that I went to was because at the time they were working on Poltergeist at where I was working. And I was telling Andrew too, what was so neat was during my lunch hour, I could just roam around all through the building and go through the model department and see what was going on. And I was just snooping everywhere during my lunch hour.
As you should.
That's why I was crying when I had to leave, was because I just couldn't, I would no longer have the door open to this wonderful kingdom where all these things were going on. But I remember I was watching a bunch of a soundstage where they were trying to create the house imploding in Poltergeist. And so I was just able to stand there and watch all these people just trying to figure out how to make the house implode or blow up or
yeah, it was sucked back into the earth.
Yeah. And this was all before things were being done digitally. So they were just having mechanically and engineering wise figuring out how to do this. And it was just, I remember there was a warehouse where they had a lot of props and things were stored. And there were props from Indiana Jones of the last scene where the actor that plays the bad guy goes up in flames. And there were props of these statues just all lined up on this shelf of him screaming, just so they could shoot over and over again and hit that particular model going up in flames. And I took a Polaroid of that, and I've been trying to find it. I don't know what I did with it, but that was just the most fun of just wandering around and looking at everything. It was magical.
One of our biggest fantasies is going up to the Lucasfilm archives and just seeing all these iconic props and set pieces and paintings, things that have shaped cinematic history, and they're all just sitting in this warehouse. We were on the outside of the warehouse. We just couldn't get into the warehouse. And knowing that you were right there in front of these, were these up at the Kerner Center?
It was in the San Rafael building. It was in that big building, sort of innocuous looking building in downtown San Rafael. Was that the Kerner Center? Was that what it was called?
Yeah, they had this a very inconspicuous, nondescript building, just so fans wouldn't come. Hey, what are you guys doing in there? And Sarah and I were just there a couple of years ago, but it's all been emptied. And but looking in those windows, going, this is where Star Wars was shot, not so much at Elstree Studios, but right here. This is where the AT-AT attack happened.
And you were there.
I know. And people were going through the trash cans. I think they had to stop it for a while, but they had the huge dumpsters out in the parking lot that people were dumpster diving, trying to find any little bit of footage or something.
How could they do that? How could they possibly? I would never do something like that.
Were you one of them?
No, but I'm upset with myself that I wasn't one of them.
That he didn't think about that.
Yeah,
you were too young.
I'd have a T-shirt. I was an ILM dumpster diver. Now, going back to the Revenge of the Jedi patch, normally they would have Ralph McQuarrie make these patches. Were you brought in as well as Ralph, or did they just put it on with you?
I don't know, because I saw last night that when I was looking up the patches that he had designed them. I didn't really know that beforehand.
At this point, Ralph McQuarrie was burnt out. He couldn't really finish a lot of the concept paintings, and he said, George, I've got to rest. I've been going nonstop since you hired me back in 1975. I just got to take a break. So I guess that's where you come in.
Yeah, because I remember I loved his things. I've even now got a portfolio of his prints of his paintings.
Yeah, when they came out with the portfolio of Return of the Jedi, normally these are concept paintings done before the film, but Lucas said, you know what, can you stay on just a little bit longer, even though the film's been done, and finish up some of these paintings just so we can put this out as a set, because he had done for Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back, and this is where I fell in love with artwork, looking at all of these beautiful Ralph McQuarrie paintings that they'd sold in big sets.
Yes, I think I have that. Yeah, I have one of those portfolios.
Do you still have any of your original artwork?
I have those 2 or 3 Leia sketches that I did during my lunch hour, because I did have to sign something when I started that any artwork I did became property of Lucasfilm. But since I had done those during my lunch hour and they weren't ever used, I do have those that I took home with me.
Well, you can tell Lucasfilm, well, they belong to you, but I'm going to keep them at my house. Just to keep everything all above board.
And I don't have the original artwork for the patch, but I do have, at the time, I did a presentation of 5 different patch designs.
Oh.
And they chose the one that they liked the best. So I do have the other, either 3 or 4 patch, rough layouts of the other runner-up patch designs that they didn't use. I have those.
The one that was used featured Yoda. What was the runner-up?
They were all Yoda, but in different poses and different shaped backgrounds.
I would have thought maybe you had really focused on Leia's hair, just the back of Carrie Fisher's head.
I think they wanted. I think they likely specifically wanted Yoda.
Now, in the SF Gate article, there's a picture of you with these patches, but there's also a picture of Indiana Jones, like a poster sketch. Did you do this? And can you tell us the story behind this?
That was, I think, one of my portfolio pieces that I did to get work. I had done and because I liked him, I'd done the portrait of Harrison Ford. And I think once that did get at some point presented to George, I think it might have been Joe Johnston that wanted to show that to George, because at the time I think they were interviewing and they were looking for posters for maybe the second Indiana Jones movie. There was an idea that it maybe could be used as a poster. So that was presented, but it was declined.
It does look amazing. Like, that's a great poster design and a great likeness of Harrison Ford as well.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of your portfolio, you had said earlier in our discussion that you had sketched out some creatures.
Yeah.
Were they ever considered?
Well, they ended up, one of them, they ended up in my book, The Forbidden Door. One of the creatures is the evil creature in The Forbidden Door, and then one of the creatures is one of the good guy in The Forbidden Door. So they ended up being those illustrations in my book, The Forbidden Door.
That is a deep cut. So everyone go get The Forbidden Door, and there's Star Wars creatures in there.
There's a Star Wars crossover there. Unbeknownst to George Lucas or Disney.
Well, and I did send the book to George Lucas. I think once it was published, I sent it to him, and I think I said something about that he had inspired me and that these were based on portfolio pieces. And I did get a note back from his secretary saying George really liked the book and appreciated you sending it to him. So.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah. I love that.
Also, in the same picture that we're looking at of you at your art table, there's other, I'm guessing these are the other Revenge of the Jedi patches. Is that original artwork from that time period? Are they photocopies, and have they ever been reproduced in a book or anywhere else?
No, I think what's on there were the rejected designs for the patch. I think what I'm showing, I think there's a Xerox of the original artwork for the patch that was chosen, and then the designs are there, and then there's some decals because they made decals of that also. But yeah, I think the other, I'm not seeing it, but I think those are the runner-up designs for the patch design that are on my drawing board there, and those are originals, and I do have those.
Wow, since they've already been reproduced here, could we get like a close-up of those for our show notes?
I guess so. Yeah, I could send you copies of those. Yeah.
Oh, that would be phenomenal, because I've been a Star Wars fanatic since 1977, and I've never seen these illustrations. So it's whenever we can see something new that's 40 years old, our heads explode.
Yeah.
I've sold some things at the Swan auction galleries in New York, and I did sell the Harrison Ford piece.
Oh.
And I was toying with selling the patch designs, but I've never done it. So yeah, I have those.
Oh, you go to a celebration convention, those will go for millions. If they're original, oh my goodness. To wrap things up, because this is my head is just it's there's too much information in my head right now. This is like Christmas.
Well, thank you. It's sort of amazing to me at this time in my life too. So
I'm so glad that your neighbor Andrew Pridgen. Hey Andrew, is Andrew right there?
Yeah. Thank you.
So happy that you two started talking one day, and it's all led to this.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great person and a great writer.
Now, is there somewhere on social media people can reach out to you and tell you how much they love your work, or just say hi?
I think some people have contacted Andrew, but I have a friend. I'm not really technically very advanced, but I do have a friend that has set up a Facebook account for me. So I guess you can, and you did get in touch with me through Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah. So that, and she will then text me any messages, and then she'll be the go-between between me and whoever does Facebook. So.
And is this your podcast debut right here?
Definitely.
That's all I want to hear.
We're so excited that we can share your story.
Yeah, and you say in Andrew's great article that you just wanted to be acknowledged for your contributions in Return of the Jedi, since this legacy does belong to you. So we can say from the bottom of our heart, thank you for all of your great work on Return of the Jedi.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Shout outs, Skywalker shout outs. Which Skywalkers get props from here in Neverland? Who was tweeted out? Shout out. Who was photobombed? Shout out. Who was shared a post? Shout out.
All right, so this is what we love to do the most. We love to reach out to all the Skywalking Force and thank them profusely by giving them a shout out in shout outs.
That's right. We could not do this without you, Skywalking Force. So thank you so much to Anthony Kakias,
Blessed Cheesemaker,
Bryn MacKinnon,
Carl Fox,
Carol Cantwell,
Chickafent,
Christopher Marino,
Courtney Turkel,
Darren Irvine,
Dave Kerwin,
Don Glover,
Garrett Sessions,
Glenn Stein,
Jeff Long,
Jennifer Cole,
Jeremy and Heather Hunt,
John Liang,
John Zoncanaro,
Julie Caruana,
Kelly Turkel,
Laura Bryce,
Lisa Barry,
Meredith Duckworth,
Michael Corbett,
Michael Nip,
Mike Sanders,
Mike Ward,
Nancy Steinman,
Patricia Vittori,
Patrick Pine,
Patty Hammond,
Patty Nazarian,
Peter and Norma Heitman.
Who's in the other room?
Yeah.
Reynold Gobey,
Scott Carmichael,
Scott Hume,
Terry Lee,
Wesley Meekholmes,
and
Wynn Patterson.
Aww.
Thank you to one and to all. Now, every time we do this, we always like to say, where the funds are going to. But these funds are going to the Libsyn hosting.
Mm-hmm.
And that,
also the website hosting.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of that. And also, like, when we go out to Disney and stuff, the cameras or various things that we use to record all of this. The audio equipment as well.
Yeah, and we're looking into getting another gimbal.
Mm-hmm.
Because now with Instagram Reels, you have to shoot like this. Not like that. Not horizontally. You got to shoot vertically, which takes forever for me to get used to, because you don't get much of an image vertically. You can do horizontal, so you get the whole movie scope thing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I think I'm just about now getting used to it. So now we got to go out and get a whole new tripod, whole new gimbal. So thank you to the SKYwalking Force who is making that happen. And if you want to support the SKYwalking Network any other way, well, very easy ways of doing it. Go on Instagram, like our videos, like our reels. You can go to YouTube. You can grab your friend's phone or anyone nearby and subscribe for them.
Yeah.
Show your presence on the Facebook group.
Yeah, we love to interact with you guys. We also have our Zoom discussions, usually once a week on Thursday or Friday evenings.
Yeah, and for going back to Instagram, we need like 3 more followers to get to the next tier.
Like 2,600 or something?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
So that's a great way of supporting.
Yeah.
Because when we get invited to different screenings and such, they always want to know our numbers.
That's true.
So the higher the number is, the more we can go to and the more we can share.
That's at SKYwalking Pod. You can also purchase a book. Maybe you have a Star Wars fan in your life that would like Today in Star Wars History
as
to
a
learn
stocking
a lot.
stuffer.
Yeah,
the holidays are coming up.
Yeah,
if you have a stocking that's 14 inches wide, this is perfect. This is perfect. So many ways to support the SKYwalking Network.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up episode 395 of
SKYwalking Through Neverland. We want to thank Marilee Heyer for sharing her incredible stories, and sfgate.com writer Andrew Pridgen for helping us set up our conversation with Marilee.
We also want to thank you, Skywalkers, for listening and interacting with us. We love it. Are you interested in our book, Today in Star Wars History? Make sure to head to skywalkingthrough-neverland.com/book to check out all the ways you can order and a holiday special. Now, we'd also like to thank our sponsor, Small World Vacations, for their support. Are you guys thinking of a trip to a Disney park? Or maybe the Galactic Star Cruiser? Or maybe even a cruise? Well, you can head to smallworldvacations.com today, fill out a Get a Quote form, and their vacation planning service is free of charge. So check it out and tell them that SKYwalking Through Neverland sent
you. Oh, sorry. Did I jump the gun on that?
I lost my train of thought. That was so weird.
All right, do you know what is not weird?
What?
Supporting the SKYwalking Network.
That's true.
And we just went through a whole bunch of ways to support the SKYwalking Network. And what we didn't mention earlier is that if you are part of the SKYwalking Force, you get all the content, the extra content, like our fun Zoom discussions we have every Thursday or Friday when we talk about Andor, we talk about She-Hulk, we talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And Tales of the Jedi, right? We talked about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are super fun. And also, the SKYwalking Force gets a coupon code, the best discount ever for part 1 or part 2 of our book. Also, this time of year, usually in January, you get a holiday card, a New Year's card with a special extra that we create for you guys. So I know if you've been part of the SKYwalking Force, you already know this, but maybe newer members, or if you want to join in, now is like the perfect time to join the SKYwalking Force because of all the extra bonuses we have right now and this time of year.
Awesome. And that bonus content, what? Begins at only $5 a month? That must be silly talk. Just $5 a month?
That's true.
Well, head over there to skywalkingforce.com. Now, we are part of the SKYwalking Network.
Skynet.
Hold on, who's going to be the first one to type that in the Sky chat? Who's going to be the first one to Skype in Skynet? Who's it going to be?
It's going to be 30 seconds.
Who's it going to be? Well, you keep an eye on that.
Okay.
Well, I tell everyone this is where you can find other great shows like Talking Apes, the Max EFX Podcast, the Neverland Clubhouse, Totally Tell Me Everything, Star Warsologies, and the YouTube shows Collectopolis and Today in Star Wars History.
You can find us on social media at SKYwalking Pod for Twitter and Instagram. You can also join our Facebook group and have lots of fun discussions there. Just search Facebook for SKYwalking Through Neverland and request to join the group.
Now, don't forget to stick around for bloopers and other fun bits that didn't make it into the show. And let's congratulate Meredith for being the first one to type in Skynet.
Oh, right before Kevin.
Seconds before Kevin.
Oh, wow.
So, always remember...
Neverland on Alderaan.
Some imagination, huh?
To our Skywalkers and Tweetwalkers, thanks for listening. Skywalking Through Neverland is created and produced by Richard and Sarah Woloski. Original music by Rob Dellinger. Creative consultant Mark Augushowitz. Technical advisor Peter Heitman. Facebook administrators Donald Wicks, Joey Pittman, and Norma Heitman.
Skywalking Through Neverland is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Any sounds, music, and clips played during this podcast are the property of their copyright holders. All original content is property of Skywalking Through Neverland, all rights reserved. Sorry, had to be said.
Okay, hold on. I like hold in my breath so I don't like breathe into the mic, and then that makes me yawn. Yeah, so I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
It's either me coughing or you yawning.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Here we go. All right, let's do this. 2 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. I will insert the music later in post-production.
Click.
Are you kidding me?
I am not.
Are you kidding me with this?
My yawn was coming on.
You couldn't wait for another 20 seconds.
I couldn't. It was coming. I'm sorry.
Take 2.
This meeting is being recorded.
It sure is. Today is our 13th wedding anniversary, so we're going to go and celebrate. So good way to kick it off.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.